Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Give us one moment. We're letting other people join us and everyone can dial in. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here today for Non-Negotiables for Your Fitness Studio, co-presented by Loyalsnap and Alternative Balance. We are so happy to have you here with us today. You're coming in on mute, but that said, this webinar is intended to be engaging and valuable. So please feel free to come off of mute at any time during the presentation to ask any questions you may have. You can also put those into the chat or into the Q&A if you would prefer. I will be monitoring that and I can share those with the presenters. And of course, we will leave time at the end for a Q&A. And now we'll kick it off and I'll hand it over to you, Miriam.
All right, thank you, Kristen. So my name is Miriam Ball, and I'm representing Alternative Balance today. I have been working in the insurance industry for quite a while, a little over 20 years now, and I've been working with Alternative Balance for a little over 8 or 9 years, something like that. And I am really excited to talk to you guys about some non-negotiables for protecting your fitness studio in coordination with Loyalsnap. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So again, my name is Miriam. I'm the CIO, and we're joined by Katie Kaufman, the COO of Loyalsnap. So she'll be discussing a little bit later how Loyalsnap can actually help you protect your business and grow your business as well using their tool. So first off, why do you need insurance? So as a wellness professional, it's really important for you to take a holistic risk management approach to protecting yourself and your business. Insurance is the first step of that. It's really easy to do, and usually it only takes just a few minutes once a year to evaluate what insurance coverage you have and making sure that it still fits the needs of your business. So the types of insurance that you need in order to be sure that you are protected come in 4 basic forms that we'll talk about more in detail a little bit later. So we have general and professional liability, participant accident insurance, BPP, which is business personal property or your business equipment, and business interruption, which is tied directly to that, and cyber liability. So poll time. Which insurance policies do you already own?
Give me one moment and I'm going to launch our poll. Just stand by.
So we're kind of asking about different types of insurance that you currently have. So we'll see what those results come in at.
Yeah, my apologies. I launched the wrong poll. So everyone's going to be getting a second poll later on. Give me one moment. I'm going to launch the next one.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody will now have the appropriate poll. My apologies. If you could take a second, let us know, answer, and I'll share the results in just a moment.
That coming in quick. Good, good.
We've got about 30% participation. Give it 30 more seconds if anyone else wants to vote.
Yeah, keep those answers coming in.
Yeah, halfway there. Anyone else? No? Okay. Let me share our poll. Is everybody able to see the answers?
Yeah, so we've got about 70% of respondents said general and professional liability, which is good. Participant accident insurance. Sounds like we might have some alternative balance members here today. BPP and business interruption, that's a little on the lower end. Cyber liability, all right, 20%, not too bad. We might be able to convince you to get that, we can get that percentage up a little bit higher. And then about 30% others, so, or that they don't know. So hopefully we can educate you a little bit more today about those types of insurance and help get you situated with what you need to protect your business. Thanks for sharing that. So when you're looking for business insurance, we got top 4 features that you want to look for. The first one, which is really important, is location restrictions. So some policies restrict you to where you're able to offer your services in order to be covered. There's often an endorsement on your policy or a page on your policy documents that's called a locations endorsement or a premise endorsement. And that's where they list a specific location that you've provided to them as your base of operations or where you normally offer your services. So with policies like what Alternative Balance has, you can offer your services anywhere in the world and you'll still be covered. So you could be doing an expo in Europe, for example, and your policy will follow you all the way over there because you are the insured and you're doing your covered service over there. So that's something really important to look for. Even if you go to like a friend's house and offer your services to your friends for free for, some party or event or something like that, you still want to be covered in that instance. So that's something to really keep in mind and pay attention to as you're looking for insurance for your business. Number 2 is that it covers all your services in one policy. So if you do, say, personal training, and you also do massage therapy to kind of complement that physical body work that you do, some policies will exclude some of those services. And so without knowing, you could maybe not be covered for some of those things that you do on a daily basis. So it's really important to just double check in your insurance policy or talk with your insurance agent or whatever group you go through to make sure that all of your services that you offer are covered. Sometimes insurance companies make you get multiple policies for that because the policy forms themselves are different. But with someone like Alternative Balance or with a group like Alternative Balance, that policy can cover you for multiple services that you offer all on one policy for one price. So we cover over 800 different trades, and we're constantly adding new trades and new terms to that covered services list. So we're a really good option if you do offer multiple services. Number 3 kind of goes along with number 1. Make sure that if you're offering online services or virtual services with your clients, make sure that your insurance policy covers you there. It's really important. We ran across this during COVID a lot, where a lot of people shifted their services to be online, and they realized they weren't covered doing that. So they ended up having a huge gap in their insurance coverage. So that's something to pay attention to. It could be something separately listed than the location restriction. So search for keywords like online, virtual, in-person, pre-recorded, all those kinds of keywords. Look for those in your insurance policy to make sure there's no exclusions for that. So moving right into number 4, check your exclusions section. If there's no other part of your policy document that you read, look for the exclusions section and just read that, because that's going to give you a big clue as to things that you might not be covered for, that you actually do need coverage for. Another part of that is looking for sublimits. So as an example, I came across a policy a few months ago where defense costs had a sublimit of $25,000. So the limit on the policy was $1 million per occurrence, but defense costs, which is going to be the bulk of what your insurance coverage pays for, was limited to $25,000, which you reach that limit really quickly. So pay attention to any sublimits that are listed on your policy, especially when it comes to defense costs. So let's get into each type of insurance coverage. So general and professional liability is kind of the meat and potatoes of what you have for your business. General liability is also called public liability because it's kind of intended for anyone who is entering the vicinity of your location or where you are providing your service. It's generally referred to as slip and fall coverage because it covers if someone trips and they fall and break their arm or something like that, and they sue you for the medical bills and pain and suffering and whatnot. General liability will jump in to cover that. It also covers claims arising from your liability from your operations, products and completed operations, and some aspects of your service. So some examples, we already talked about someone slipping and falling, but it also covers things like libel and slander. So, and copyright infringement. So say you're writing a blog and you post something negative about someone else in your industry and they sue you for slander, that's something that would be covered under your general liability coverage. So the professional liability portion is very specific to wrongful acts resulting from your professional service. So as an expert in your industry and someone who is offering a service, so say you're a personal trainer, you have a duty of care to provide services according to accepted standards in your industry. So if you breach that duty of care, that's something that falls under professional liability coverage if you're sued because somebody was injured because of that breach of duty. It also covers things like misstatements, misleading statements that lead to injury or financial losses to your clients. So say that you recommended some supplements to your client and they ended up in the ER because they had an allergic reaction to that and they want to blame you for that, they could file a lawsuit saying that you are responsible for that because that was your professional recommendation that they take those supplements and it caused them harm. Now, I will say 99.5% of all lawsuits don't go to court. So that's where having those defense costs fully covered, it really comes into play there. So anybody can sue you for anything. And having insurance like general liability and professional liability will provide that attorney for you and all the investigation costs to look into that claim and that incident and to protect you and your business. So another really important coverage to have if you have any business equipment, everything from a desk to a computer to a fancy lamp that you have in your space, is going to be BPP and business interruption insurance. So business personal property, as I briefly mentioned earlier, is your business equipment. So it's movable assets, which means it's not a permanent structure like a house or an office. So your movable equipment that is owned by your business. So that also includes things like inventory. So if you also have like a stock of fitness stretch bands that your clients can use and take home with them, and say that all gets stolen one night, someone breaks into your space and they steal all of that, that's something that would be covered under a business personal property policy. It also would cover things like fire. If a fire breaks out in your space and all of your business equipment is damaged and you're not able to work, that's covered under business personal property. And then that leads into the business interruption portion, where because you're not able to offer your services during a certain amount of time, you're going to have lost income and you're going to have extra expenses that you have to pay during that time until things can get repaired, until you can repurchase all of that equipment that you use in your business. So business interruption jumps in to fill that financial gap for you. It is directly tied to business personal property losses. So it doesn't cover things like, say, COVID happens again, or some sort of pandemic happens again, and the government shuts everything down and you can't work. It's not that kind of business interruption coverage. This is directly tied to if your property is damaged or stolen, and you can't provide that business income. That's when this business interruption comes into play.
Miriam,
So we did have a question.
yeah, there's a question that came through for the previous slide, which was when you recommend something like your supplements example, is there any disclaimer you should include to protect yourself?
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit about waivers a little bit later, but having disclaimers on, say, on your website or on your agreements that you have with your clients, stating that you're released from liability and they understand the risks and accept that, and they are making their own choices. That's really important for you to have to protect yourself. So absolutely, definitely use disclaimers, use liability waivers, and consent forms to make sure that people are understanding what the risks are and that they are specifically agreeing to that. So that was a really good question. Thank you. Okay, so the next insurance that we want to talk about is really important, but it's also more difficult to find in the insurance industry. And this is especially important for fitness-related insureds or fitness-related services. So participant accident insurance is no-fault coverage for injuries or accidents that occur to a client that is participating in your service or activity. So it differs from the liability insurance in that with liability insurance, you have to be legally liable for that injury in order for that policy to come into play, or someone has to sue you, essentially. Otherwise, there's nothing to pay. There's no damage to you financially unless someone brings that claim against you because they feel that you're legally liable. So with participant accident insurance, it doesn't matter if you're legally at fault. What matters is that your client was participating in your service, your activity, they get injured, then participant accident insurance comes in to pay their medical bills, regardless of whether or not you're at fault. All they care about is that they were participating in your activity, and that's it. So this is something that can really help build the relationship that you have with your clients. It can protect that relationship if something does happen, because it shows to your clients that you care about their well-being, you care about their financial well-being. And so it allows you to add that layer of protection for them without them having to go through the steps of finding a lawyer and trying to force you to pay for their medical bills through a lawsuit. This is with alternative balance insurance, it's included with everything else. We added this on a couple of years ago for no additional cost. And we're really grateful to our partners over at Nexo Insurance for helping us put this together because I think it's really, really important. So this is also tied into the risk management idea of having liability waivers, having those disclaimers, because participant accident insurance has another benefit in that it really prevents lawsuits from happening. If someone feels like they're not going to have to be out that money, that they have something to fall back on for those medical costs, they are a lot less likely to sue you because there's nothing to sue you for. So that combined with having liability waivers every year signed by your client is kind of a really good bubble of protection for your business. So it's two very simple things to do to help protect your relationship with your clients, your business reputation, and prevents lawsuits and protects your insurance company as well. So those are some things that you really, really want to look at. So the last one that I want to talk about is cyber liability insurance. So a lot of what we do these days is online. We take payments online, we take payments through third-party services like Venmo, or using things like services like Loyalsnap to do scheduling and things like that. We're accepting client information through these services, and anything can happen at any point during that transmission of that data. Even if you write down on a piece of paper your client's name, their phone number, their email address, their address, any health information that they might write down, even if it's on a piece of paper, that is considered personally identifiable information. And every state has different laws for what is required in order to protect that information and what sorts of agreements or acceptance you have to get from the person giving you that information before they give it to you. So now that you have that information, you have a duty of care to protect it. So cyber liability insurance is there to protect you if a data breach happens. It is there to protect you if you have a ransomware attack against your service. So say someone takes your website down and you can't access your website, nobody can access your website, and they want you to pay a ransom in order to get it back. Cyber liability covers all of that. It also covers the notification costs, and it provides a specialist to help you understand and enact all of the notification requirements that are different from every state. So that's something you're not going to know about, that changes all the time. And so if a breach happens, or if you have a ransomware attack and you're required to notify your clients about that, it's really difficult to know if you are following the law and following regulations according to what you're responsible to do. So with cyber liability insurance, it's going to take care of that for you. It's going to take that responsibility off of your shoulders and provide professionals and experts to help you get through that process. So that's why I think cyber liability is extremely important. With so much of what we do online, it's really going to help give you peace of mind that you have somebody on your side for these things that are often very difficult to understand. So with all of these things put together, when you have your insurance in place, you're going to want to extend out that holistic risk management process into knowing how to communicate with your clients in different ways and at different times. And that's where Loyalsnap comes in. They have a great platform, and Katie is here to talk to you about that. So I'm going to turn the time over to her to continue down that road.
Fantastic. Thank you, Miriam, for all that information. As we mentioned, the theme of this webinar is non-negotiables for your fitness or wellness business. And this is where you can trust in us as experts in our respective fields that we've seen and studied and analyzed this data to see what can happen if you don't have these non-negotiables in place. So to start off, I'm Katie. I'm the COO here at Loyalsnap. I've been working with the company for almost 5 years now, and prior to that, I did work in fitness in a studio. So I'll just start with a very brief overview of what Loyalsnap does in case there are people who don't know. So Loyalsnap is a relationship building technology designed to optimize lead conversion and member retention. So basically, we help you get your leads to become paying members and then consistently engage with those members so they remain a part of your community for as long as possible. And Loyalsnap accomplishes this with a very customized approach, including automated messaging, a client management dashboard. It's set up to automatically display the clients that need a more personalized touch point, email and text blast messaging, follow-up tasks, so much more. But at the core of Loyalsnap, we're using our industry expertise paired with cutting-edge technology to provide targeted, actionable data in a way that is really easy and effective. So from the Loyalsnap perspective, the non-negotiables that we're talking about relate to communication. Communicating with your clients and your community is absolutely essential in today's market. And, we can zoom out for a moment. There was a time when people did have a ton of loyalty to their gym. They went to one studio, maybe even just one trainer because they loved it so much. It's close to their home, things like that. And now there's a fitness studio on every corner, where once you were the closest gym to that client's home, there may be 10 different gyms and fitness studios along the way now. So having a really solid communication and engagement plan with your clients will set your business apart and set you up for success. And of course, in order to really build that community with your clients, it's critical that your front desk staff and your trainers and your whole team are really focusing on interacting with your clients and giving them the best experience while they're in person at your studio. This is why with Loyalsnap, we've made everything as automated as possible. This includes everything from fully automated campaigns, dynamic and static segmented lists you can create directly in the system, for mass communication via email or text, and even personalized outreach that is as easy and efficient as possible. For example, we have our client management dashboard. Clients appear in customizable categories based on their purchase or visit behavior. And someone at the desk can just click on their profile. There's a pre-written script for email, text, and a phone call, and even a voicemail, and it'll automatically appear based on whatever dashboard category they're in. They can even use merge fields to make the client's name or the visit history or trainer just automatically populate. So it seems really personalized, but they didn't have to do all that research to find the information. All that to say, client communication is something that is oftentimes overlooked, but is an absolute non-negotiable if you want your studio to stand out and you want your clients to have a great experience with you. So let's dive into what types of communication we're talking about here, and we'll look at a few specific examples. The three we're talking about today: marketing outreach, crisis communication, and what we're calling here communication that cares. And we'll talk more about what that means in a moment. So let's continue on. Let's go to our poll. Kristen, if you want to launch
One
that for
moment.
us.
Yep, 1 second, everybody. Stand by for a new poll.
So I want to know if you have a formal client communications plan for any of those three categories that we just talked about. Okay, we're getting a mix here.
Can we push it over into the 50% bracket? A couple more responses in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, it looks like we're fairly evenly
Hovering.
right now.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll. Let me share the results.
Yeah, fairly evenly split. Great to know. Everyone's coming from a different perspective and a different communication plan as of right now. So that's great to know, and certainly something that we can help out with, and hopefully you'll get some great information right here. So can we jump on to the next slide? Awesome. So marketing outreach. Some people hear marketing outreach and they immediately think of really salesy emails and promotions. And I'm here to tell you it's so much more than that. So let's reframe the way we're thinking about marketing and put it more in the context of communication. So let's think about this example here. Most fitness studios offer some sort of trial. Let's say this one is the first class free. Every other fitness studio in your area is also offering a trial or a first class free. So you need to find ways to make this new client feel welcome and prepared, and like the staff really cares about their experience. And then, of course, you need to provide an amazing fitness experience for them. In Loyalsnap, here's what this might look like. Let's call our client Sarah. So Sarah signs up for a first class free. She gets an email or a text or both automatically thanking her for signing up, telling her a bit about the studio, what to expect. And then the day before her class, she'll get another email saying, hey, we can't wait to meet you. See you at the studio tomorrow. As a reminder, please arrive 10 minutes early. We can show you around, introduce you to your instructor. We have waters and towels here. Parking is in the back, that type of stuff. And all of that is completely automated. Your team doesn't have to do a single thing until they show up and actually need that tour or the towel. So then after Sarah's class, an automated email can go out thanking her for coming in, asking her if she has any questions about the workout, if she has any feedback. Maybe you're providing some post-workout tips or reminding her to drink lots of water, do some stretching or foam rolling. So you're really solidifying that you're a kind of partner to her and that you're invested in her success beyond just in your studio. And at the same time, Sarah will show up in a category on your client management dashboard. And that lets your team know that she completed her first class free, but she hasn't made any subsequent purchases or booked an additional class. So the person at the desk can use the dashboard to send a text message that says, "Hey, Sarah, it was so great meeting with you today. Trainer Joe said he really loved having you in class. I want to check in and see if you have any questions about our special 10 class pack that we're offering right now, and we'd love to see you back in the studio soon." And all that is pre-populated in Sarah's profile and uses merge fields. So it seems like a really personalized message, but it only took your front desk team a single click to send. And you can continue to follow up with automations and more dashboard categories on whatever your preferred cadence is until they book that class or make the purchase or eventually go into a long-term nurture campaign. This is just one example of those really critical touch points that you have to have on an ongoing basis if you want your members to convert and stay for a long time. It's so important to engage your members right from the start, and it's one of the easiest and most common pieces to get missed. Let's jump to the next slide, please. So the next type of communication we're going to talk about is crisis communication. So let's say a piece of your equipment breaks and you want to set expectations that members won't be able to use it today, or if you have to close last minute due to unsafe weather conditions, you need to be able to communicate that to your clients in a way that's simple and effective so you can focus on everything else, like making the changes in your schedule, getting in touch with your trainers, things like that. Or let's say your booking platform has a security breach. And of course, you'll all be completely prepared for that with your alternative balance cyber liability insurance plan. But you'll need to reach out to your members to let them know what happened and provide resources. One example of this that we saw recently was the hurricane in Houston. It disrupted a lot of our clients because it wasn't safe to go out. Then they didn't have power, some for multiple days or up to a week even. And we saw a lot of our clients using Loyalsnap not only for announcements about studio closures and schedule changes, but also to check in on their members' well-being and make sure everyone was okay. They were sending out texts with safety measures and resources. And then, of course, they were able to easily communicate the timing of reopening and returning to a normal schedule as well. But can you imagine if you're stuck without power in that heat for a week and your local yoga studio texts you and says, "Hey, we have air conditioning. Come back if you need to. You can come by for a special stretch session, hang out in the AC, bring your kids if you need to." That is how you get members and advocates for life. So the last type of communication, thank you, that we'll talk about today is communication that cares. And this is really the most fun communication. It's all about client engagement, making people feel seen and part of the community. And that includes things like celebrating workout milestones, birthdays, other important moments for people. You can even set yourself reminders to reach out to someone if you know they're getting married at the end of the month. You can create a task and reach out to them and congratulate them and tell them how excited you are to hear about their honeymoon when they come back. Again, we're really taking that personalized outreach to the next level and letting these clients know that they're an important part of your community, because otherwise they can move on to the next yoga studio down the street. So we want to help your team solidify good communication practices as an absolute non-negotiable at your studio to set you apart from the rest. With that, I think we can jump into some Q&A. If people have questions, now is a great time to ask.
Yes, please feel free to enter them into the chat, or you can raise your hand to come off mute, or there's even a Q&A. But there is a couple. Okay, so for Miriam, my fitness business offers online classes. Do I have to worry about liability and such when conducting an online class?
Yes, you do. That's the short answer. Anytime you are providing your service, you definitely should be aware of your liability and your responsibility to your customers, your member, or your clients. Doing things online is definitely a little bit different from, providing services in person. So some of the things to watch out for when you're offering services online, or having online sessions is making sure to give cues to your participants about making sure their area is properly fitted for whatever activity you're going to be doing. Give those prompts. Make sure to, if they have their video on, just kind of glance at where they're at, throughout the session, and make sure that they are still doing okay, that they aren't running into walls or running into tables or chairs. And just continue to prompt them if you do notice things that might cause injury, potentially. So another part of that is related to what we talked about earlier from the other question was have disclaimers. So very often with a lot of online platforms that provide video group services or even individual sessions online, you have the opportunity to require people to accept a liability release or a consent form before they join the session. So we definitely recommend that you set that up in whatever service you're using. Or if you're doing like a Facebook Live, go ahead and just include like a little disclaimer at the bottom, or if it's live on YouTube, or if you have a pre-recorded YouTube video, put it in the description. Just a little disclaimer goes a long way. So just something simple. Alternative Balance provides examples of those for their members. So if you are a member, or if you're thinking about becoming a member, that's something that we can help get you started with. We do still recommend that you have an attorney who is familiar with your state laws. Take a look at any waivers that you use just to make sure that they're compliant with state law, or any local regulations that there might be. But we can definitely get you started with at least the basics to get you protected right away.
Thanks. Mona, do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So my question is for Loyalsnap. How do you integrate with our billing softwares? For example, me, I'm with GlowFox.
Great question. So we have a few different options here. Loyalsnap integrates with the booking platform. So we have certain booking platforms that we have an integration set up with. We're connected via API, so we're getting real data all the time. Now, for people who are on a booking platform like GlowFox that we don't integrate with currently, there are a few other ways that we can upload all of your contacts, so you could still send out email blasts and send out all that information to your clients and run promotions and things like that.
Okay, but how could I know the categories if it's not synced? Like I would have to do it manually every time I have a new client and put it also on Loyalsnap.
Yeah, so the client management dashboard piece is really based on that integration, right, with the booking platform. So with our non-integrated option, there are leads categories that we can set you up with, but beyond that, the rest of them would it would really be using the email blast and text blast functionality.
Okay, but I just don't get how would Loyalsnap knows when to send the email or the text if he doesn't know if the client booked a class or finished her free trial and didn't close. Like
Yeah,
it would not be all synced up.
no, you're correct. It requires that integration for certain pieces of the
Okay.
functionality to work. Yeah.
So with it means if I would like to be with you guys, I would need to switch my billing software. So which ones do you integrate with?
Yeah, we integrate with MindBody is our biggest integration, Mariana Tech, Club Ready, and we have a few others that are coming up. So happy to chat with you more about those if you're interested.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We have time for a couple more questions if anybody else wants to come off mute. Katie, there's one more question for you, which is, can someone at Loyalsnap figure out which communications I need?
Yeah, great question. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. The longer answer, again, as I mentioned, we have a lot of industry expertise on our team, and we've done this now thousands and thousands of times. So we have a set of best practices that we would start you off with. And that would be in consultation with your team, whether that's your marketing team or whoever would run that type of initiative. So we can set up custom automations and dashboard categories based on your preferred cadence and flow, and how your client journey works. But yeah, we would start you off with best practices, and that includes templates and scripts and all sorts of stuff that would be customized to your studio. So our support team is the best around, and they can definitely help out with that.
Great. Okay, I think we have time for two last questions. Miriam, this one is for you. It is what is the difference in insurance policies that focus on wellness versus small business insurance?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are actually quite a few differences, and it also depends on who the provider of the small business insurance is. A lot of general small business policies exclude activities related to fitness. That's just kind of a standard exclusion that a lot of insurance companies have when it comes to small business insurance. So that's something that is a big difference. The other differences are going to be in how many types of services are covered, if virtual services are covered. A lot of small business insurance policies are really designed for one premises, one location, maybe two. And sometimes it doesn't cover professional liability. So a lot of times you'll go to something like Hiscox Insurance, which is, they do a whole huge range of insurance types. And if you get something called a business owner's policy, which is often what small businesses are directed towards, that doesn't include professional liability. Sometimes they give you an option to add that on and sometimes not, but it's not usually really obvious. So make sure that if you are trying to decide between a small business insurance policy or package and something related specifically to wellness, you want that professional liability piece to be on there. So that's going to be a huge part of paying attention to what you're actually buying. If you're working with an insurance agent for a small business insurance policy, that's going to be something that you want to make sure they understand. They're going to need to understand your full range of services that you offer, because like I said, a lot of those services are going to be excluded, especially fitness related activities. So I think those are the big differences to pay attention to.
Great, thank you. Okay, last question. Katie, this is for you. How can I tell if my team is sending out the right communications at the right time?
Yeah, great question. So there's a few different aspects of this, right? Our client management dashboard will populate automatically at those touch points that we have predefined with your team. Again, based on these best practices that we would recommend and whatever your team wants to implement. But it's getting at those touch points that will really optimize for conversion based on your client journey and based on our experience. So our system is set up for everything to be at those most important touch points. Now, in terms of how to make sure that your staff is actually doing it and reaching out to the people, we have a staff history section. So you can see by staff member or by communication type, how, when, and to whom these communications are going out every day. So, we got you covered there in terms of making sure that you can have the information you need to be able to coach your staff and coach your team members.
Great, thank you so much. Well, thank you to everybody who has joined us today. We will send out a recording of the webinar afterwards. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out in the meantime. Contact information is on this screen, and you can get a copy of the deck through the email as well. We hope everyone has had a great day.
Thanks, everyone.